Hello everyone. Today we are covering a case that brings us to the Pacific Northwest. I chose this case specifically because I have lived in Washington State my entire life, and I've heard notorious cases such as Ted Bundy, the Green River Killer, and the Tube Sock Killer. But there are many other cases that have happened that are just as horrific, if not more. I also find it interesting studying cases close to home that I've never heard of, which brings me to this case we will be covering tonight, the Werewolf Butcher. This is a case I've never heard of, and before diving into the case, I want to give a trigger warning. This case involves sexual mutilation, rape, child abuse, and evisceration. If this case is too disturbing for you, then please click off, and I hope to see you in a different video. Also, my heart goes out to all of the people affected in this video, the families, the communities, and everyone who has been torn from this case. Jack Owen Spillman was born on August 30th, 1969. During Spillman's upbringing, his mother had a total of 4 husbands, and she also had 4 children. Spillman and his siblings didn't know who their fathers were due to so many different partners, and I haven't been able to locate any reports on how the siblings' relationships were with each other. But what is known about Jack Spillman III is that he had a very low IQ, and according to the mini documentary case from Most Evil, which will be listed in the sources below, Jack Spillman III had an IQ of about a 4th grader at the age of 22, so he wasn't the smartest. To the public, he was a low IQ laborer, and after taking on multiple different jobs and losing different jobs from different businesses that he would try and work at, he eventually landed a job as a butcher. And although he had began building his life with this new role, his true passion was watching women that he could assault. He was obsessed with thinking that he was a werewolf. He loved to stalk women like they were his own prey, and this infatuation brought him to Amanda Huffman, Rita Huffman's daughter. Now Rita was 48 years old and she was a car salesperson. Her daughter was 15 years old and they lived happy together in East Wenatchee. And Jack Spillman was obsessed with the daughter Amanda, as she was a young student, and once he had his 2 eyes on her, he took measures into his own hands. Rita and Amanda didn't have any previous history with Jack at all, but this is where the case escalates. After meeting Rita and Amanda, he began tracking down their every movement, stalking them everywhere that they went. Spillman continued to stalk them until he was ready to make his move. And after stalking and watching them enough, he realized and learned that Rita Huffman never locked her rear sliding glass door. And so during one night in 1994, Spillman entered Rita Huffman's home. Once Spillman was inside the home, he carried out his brutal fantasies. Around 10 to 11 p.m., Rita's older daughter was trying to get a hold of her little sister Amanda, and she didn't answer the phone. So she thought it was kind of unusual, so she went over to go check up on her sister and her mother. The front door was locked when she arrived, so she knew that the back door was always unlocked. So she made her way around the back and went inside. Once the older daughter entered the home, she was horrified. In the living room, she saw her mother, Rita, lying on the couch, smeared with blood. She immediately went to go check in on Amanda and found her lifeless body, smeared with blood, in Rita's bedroom. The daughter immediately rushed out, trying to find help from anybody that she could. She was banging on neighbors' doors, just trying to get somebody to help and call the police. Once the police arrived, the investigation was underway. They observed the 2 victim bodies and instantly knew that this was a sexually motivated double homicide. Rita had been stabbed a total of 31 times in the upper chest and lower neck, which severed major blood vessels. She had also sustained wounds on her hands and her arms, indicating she was trying to defend herself during the attack and was conscious during the brutality this assailant inflicted. Despite her defense efforts, as Rita fought as hard as she could, she ended up dying. And trigger warning. The police also noted her genital area was surgically removed and stuffed in her mouth, and Rita's breasts had also been removed. They also noted that her body was posed in a provocative way after her death. Rita's daughter, Amanda, was sexually assaulted and then killed by a blow to the back of her head with a baseball bat, which was found pushed into her genital. The assailant had also removed skin from her genital and placed it on her face. And this sick monster also placed Rita's missing breasts next to her. Because of the nature of this crime, it's believed that Amanda was held hostage for a period of time prior to her death. The police acted fast and wasted no time trying to figure out who committed these horrific acts. The first suspect was Rita's boyfriend, but his time was quickly accounted for and he was ruled out as a suspect. An examination of the bodies later at the morgue narrowed the time of death for both Rita and Amanda between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. This was due to the fact that Amanda wore a watch on her wrist, and the watch stopped at 11:35 p.m., indicating that she had been attacked. But, with the police not having any leads, the case went cold for a while. However, there was a breakthrough in the case. When detectives checked on the incident reports from the night of the double murder, they discovered that Jack Spillman had been arrested in the early hours of the morning, not far from the crime scene, on suspicion of burglary, and after searching the area, they found a bloody knife which matched the DNA of one of the victims. A witness also came forward and stated that they saw his 1978 Chevy pickup near the crime scene around 11:30 p.m. during the night of the murders. After finding the knife, and having a witness coming forward stating that they saw Jack Spillman near the crime scene, the police tried questioning him. Unfortunately, they didn't have any solid evidence tying Jack Spillman to these specific crimes. He was only arrested on suspicion of burglary, so they had to release him from custody. But the police knew Jack Spillman had to be involved with this double homicide, so they kept him under surveillance for a week after the murders of Rita and Amanda. And it didn't take long for police to get solid evidence to convict Jack of these murders. As mentioned earlier, Jack was not very smart, and this dumbass tossed his bloodied ski mask while under surveillance, which is all the police needed. The blood and DNA matched one of the victims, and it also had blood on the mouth part of the mask, indicating that he drank Amanda's blood. Jack Spillman was arrested for the murders of Amanda and Rita Huffman. And when being charged with the murders, he was going to get the death penalty. However, the police gave him a plea deal, which Spillman accepted for life in prison without parole. And what Spillman revealed was horrifying. Spillman revealed that he stalked another family earlier in his life, and became integrated with their family. Now, I can't confirm this, but I believe I read a couple of reports where he was dating the mother who had 2 daughters, and he found the daughters very, very attractive, and he was infatuated with them, just like he was with Amanda. But one day, the youngest daughter, 9-year-old Penny Davis, went missing. And originally the police did question him, but they didn't have any evidence to link him to the crime, and so they had to let him go, and after he was let go, he moved out of the area. Spillman admitted to the police that he tortured Penny, and he'd also cut her throat in a local cave that he had taken her to. But he cut a little bit too deep, and he was unable to fulfill his true dark fantasies. He then buried her body in a forest, and he'd come back from time to time to fulfill his sexual purposes. This was an open and closed case. After he admitted to the murders that he committed, as well as the overwhelming evidence, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And I want to talk a little bit about his time in prison, because this shows the true monster that Jack Spillman actually is. During his time in prison, he's mentioned to cellmates about how he wanted to become the greatest serial killer of all time. And he'd studied other serial killers, Ted Bundy, the Green River Killer. So many different serial killers motivated him, and he tried learning from them so he could avoid being caught, such as trying to shave his body hair so he didn't leave evidence at the crime scene. He is known as the Werewolf Butcher because, as mentioned earlier, he was a butcher during the day, but also saw himself as a werewolf during the evening, and he called himself a real werewolf because of the way that he liked to stalk his prey. He fantasized about torturing women, and expressed how he wanted to cut the heart out of a victim just so he could feast on it. Jack Owen Spillman is currently still serving his sentence in the Washington State Penitentiary, and he is currently 52 years old. Which, after seeing the penitentiary where he's located at, it blew my mind a little bit, because I used to work for an IT company that had contracts with all the state agencies in Washington State, and I've been out to the Walla Walla Department of Corrections, and it's terrifying knowing that a monster like that exists in one of those prisons. Department of Corrections was a big contract that we had, and every time I went out to these different job sites, just either delivering computer equipment or doing whatever services that we needed for their IT units. I always wondered what kind of prisoners were in each of these facilities, and it's shocking to know that someone as horrific was in a job site that I was at. If you are interested in more backstory of the Werewolf Butcher, a TV series called Most Evil has covered his crimes, and also a TV series called Evil Lives Here. There are no words for the crimes this monster has committed. He has caused terror to different communities, and although he is now behind bars, his history will always follow the community he terrified. My heart goes out to everybody that was affected by Jack Spillman, and I hope he continues to rot in jail and lives in misery. This has been the Werewolf Butcher. If you found this case interesting, then maybe subscribe for more horrifying stories. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.